Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another very exciting episode here on the MIgardener channel. It's fall, and you know what fall means? It means leaves. And I can't tell you how many times people throw out their leaves at the end of the road and let the city pick them up. And it just makes me so frustrated because I see so many people also having gardens. Now, it's one thing if you don't garden, which you should be gardening, but if you garden and you're taking the leaves and grass clippings out to the end of the road for the city to pick up, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So I want to share with you in this episode kind of the biggest reasons why it's a disservice. And obviously, these are going to be things you're probably going to be well aware of, but I also wanted to tie it in to some other things that you throw out that you probably shouldn't be, because it's a great way to create organic matter for the garden, increase your success, and decrease your cost of inputs next year. So obviously the first one being leaves. What do we do with leaves? We compost them. So we run them through a lawnmower to kind of decrease the size or increase the surface area. Sometimes confuses people. Anytime you take a big leaf like this, it's got very little surface area, okay? It's very little surface area. So what you do is you have to make it smaller, and by making each piece smaller, you've then increased the surface area. That allows it to break down much quicker. It allows it to be ready for you in the spring rather than in 1 or 2 years, because naturally leaves are meant to kind of mat together and suppress weeds, which brings me to my second thing. So if you're not composting them, what you can do is use them as mulch on your garden. Come on, let's see what we're doing in the garden. Now in the garden, what we're using them for, as you can see, we have ourselves a nice thick layer here. What we do is we'll mulch our beets. And you can see here, even though the beet greens have died, the beet is still protected underneath this layer here. I don't want to uncover them a whole lot here because it's well below freezing today. But what you want is you want a nice thick layer of leaves, because when you, here I'll harvest this one, why not? When you have a root vegetable, whether it be carrots, beets, potatoes, you can use your garden as a cold storage. So instead of having to harvest them and bring them indoors, you can actually grow beets and have them even in the winter time, because the soil will stay, even if it's moderately frozen on top, the lower levels of the soil will stay unthawed, because the cold has not yet had a chance to really penetrate deep in, so you can still harvest your vegetables. And this way it keeps them fresher longer, even though the tops are dead. So definitely a really good tip to using leaves in the garden. Plus, the leaves will break down throughout the winter, and it will help to feed the soil even in the spring. So that is how we use leaves in the garden primarily, is to keep our root vegetables longer. But like I said, we also do compost them, and when they're composted, they make an incredible organic fertilizer. It's a very light, very gentle fertilizer, but it is a fertilizer nonetheless that will give your plants food throughout the growing season next year. Also, another thing that's going to give you a great food source that oftentimes people throw out are pumpkins. Let's go talk about those. So I think everyone can agree that at the end of Halloween, or even at the end of Thanksgiving, once people are kind of in that winter past autumn mood, you see a lot of pumpkins out at the end of the road. And pumpkins are an incredible nutrient source for your garden. And one of the ways that I really like to kind of gauge how helpful they'll be in the garden, I mean, everything's helpful when it's broken down, but certain things are significantly more helpful than others. So you really want to make a conscious effort not to throw those things out. Other things, they're good for your garden, but I won't lose any sleep on it if I forget, not to discard it. But pumpkins are one of the ones that I really think are really overlooked. They generally have an NPK of 632, meaning 6% nitrogen, 3% phosphorus, and 2% potassium. That is outstanding for something that a lot of times people throw out. And that is the available nutrients when it's broken down. And how I've come across a lot of these NPK numbers for things like leaves or grass clippings or even pumpkins. I go to a site called NPK for Everything, or NPK of Everything. I'll post a link in the description box below for you. And it is a really comprehensive site. It doesn't have everything, which I wish they would continuously keep updating it. I don't think they've updated it in quite a while, but it is a very comprehensive list nonetheless of a lot of different NPKs of things that are commonly thrown out. And so I would highly recommend checking it out, because pumpkins and leaves are just a few things that I see a lot of people throwing out. Another thing that we don't have on hand here, but we do actually come across and pick up pretty regularly for our core gardens, are straw bales. Oftentimes after Halloween, after Thanksgiving, again, autumn is the time for straw bales and hay rides and things like that. You see a lot of times people throwing out these bales of hay, or bales of straw rather, out at the end of the road. Do not pass those up, or if you're someone who has them, don't throw them out. Those are incredible sources of nutrients, an incredible source of organic matter, and when used in a core gardening method, can help reduce your watering. So I'm gonna post a link to that in the description box below, how to set up a core garden. We're gonna be converting all of our beds over to core gardening beds next year, assuming we can find enough straw, obviously. But we're going to actively look for some straw bales in the coming weeks, now that Thanksgiving is coming to an end, and I've seen a lot of people start preparing their straw bales. I can see them sitting out on every once in a while on porch steps, that people are kind of just waiting for that autumn mood to fade. So definitely look out for those as well. Those are 3 things that in the fall seem to be thrown out so prolifically that you can just grab them up, compost them, and have a great source of nutrients and organic matter for your garden, and reduce the amount of inputs that you're going to need to put into your soil next year. So I do hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. I hope you'll check out the site that I mentioned, NPK for Everything. Not getting paid to say, I don't even know if they gather any money or whatever, but it's just a really cool, comprehensive site that I love to look at. And it's just a thing that will help open your eyes to just how many nutrients, really good nutrients, you're just throwing out every single day. So make a conscious effort to take all that organic matter and throw it in the compost pile, or put it right in the garden, and we'll catch you all later. So as always, I hope you all are learning something new from these episodes. Hopefully you all are growing big or going home, and we'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye.